Hello everyone, just a quick word from your friendly editor/husband. For all of you who listen to So I'm Watching This Show and own an Android device, do me a favor. Go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android devices. I use the app and love it. I can search for the podcasts I want to listen to, select them as favorites, and have them all just a click away. Make sure you set So I'm Watching the Show as a favorite so you don't miss any new episodes. Again, the app is Podcast Republic, available on your Android device. Thanks!
My brother, God love him.
Uh-oh.
He went out, and I mean, mind you, I grew up with this man. I grew up, and we were similar in our tastes as a child. But he was coming home from like a late night out, and he was like, "Do you want something to eat if I get something?" And I said, "Sure, grab me a sandwich."
Mm-hmm.
We grew up eating turkey sandwiches with lettuce and tomato only. You know what I mean?
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So
it's a really good, like, basic level sandwich.
His ass walks into the door and hands me a Wawa sub. Let me read to you what was on this hoagie.
Oh,
Sorry.
You did send me this picture, and
It's
I
a
just
hoagie.
saw there was like too many things on it, and I was like, I know you don't order that many things on your sandwich.
Well, I said, honestly, this was so close to being something I would eat.
Yeah.
But he brought me a chicken tender sub. Sure.
Okay, sure.
Sure. That's a fair bet. A big one, too, on wheat.
We're already getting a little off the rails.
We're getting dodgy. He told me that they were out of mayonnaise, so instead he put honey mustard and ranch on it because he knew I liked both of those. Mind you, we have mayonnaise at home that I could have put on it. And
also, how does Wawa run out of mayonnaise? What the fuck?
Also, Wawa has packets of mayonnaise.
Yeah, like with like something else.
With provolone, sure. Pepper, okay. Oregano.
Wait, like crushed like black pepper?
Yeah, black pepper.
Okay. Because I was like, you don't like peppers.
Oregano.
Okay.
This is where we go full off the rails.
Full off the rails. Okay, let's hear it.
Onions, sweet peppers, and lettuce.
That is really close. It's like it's close on so many options. So no tomato.
No tomatoes.
No tomato, which is your favorite.
Uh-huh. And so I have a rule of thumb for all of you out there. If you are ever buying a sandwich for someone and you were given no instructions, because some people explicitly don't like tomatoes or onions. So if you were given no instructions, here is how you do it. Every sandwich needs lettuce.
Mm-hmm.
Most sandwiches need tomato.
Correct.
Many sandwiches need onion. And some sandwiches need pickle.
Uh-huh.
Anything beyond that is by request only.
Exactly.
Never put olives or peppers or sprouts or regular. Like, you never put anything unless you were specifically asked.
I see, and I would even put onions in that category because I know tons of people who don't like the taste of raw onion, and I only like it sparingly, so I would not put onions on someone else's sandwich unless I was specifically requested to.
That's why I had it down there, but it's like, like a steak and cheese. It's standard that you would have mushrooms and onions on that. And I mean, I didn't include mushrooms, but it was the last one. Mm-hmm. You can bring onion, like a sandwich can have onions without being out of pocket. You know what I mean?
Of course.
But it's like, if you throw a handful of olives on something, like
on like another person's sandwich.
Yeah. No.
Oh man.
So yeah, and in his defense, the thing is, he recently saw me eat an Italian that I put sweet peppers on.
Okay, the sweet peppers make sense in that scenario. Okay.
And then it's like, I like wheat bread, but it's like, I get it with honey turkey and Swiss. You know what I mean? It's like...
Right. Yeah. It's like,
or
it
ham.
doesn't... I wouldn't put... I don't think I would put a chicken tender sub on wheat bread. I just don't think I could do it.
Oh my God.
I think not provolone. I think I would have put mozzarella on that.
Well, they don't have that at...
Or cheddar, maybe? Mm-hmm. Cheddar?
No, I like provolone on... Because provolone is the provolone and... I mean, cheddar's a pretty standard cheese.
Yeah.
But... Yeah,
Swiss,
so anyways.
Even maybe Swiss. Yeah, I'm just like, that sounds like a sandwich that I would not want.
I mean, I still ate it like it was Annie's 2-day-old puss, but...
Ooh. Good segue, but that really threw me for a minute.
insisting on
Excellent. Yeah.
that one. I got that one locked and loaded.
Yeah, good job.
So, okay. Hello, everybody. I am Will.
And I'm Kristen.
This is So I'm Watching This Show. On today's episode, we are going to have a casual little chit-chat about a couple Netflix things. We're going to talk a little bit about season 2 of Shrill, and we're going to talk a little bit about I guess it's new, the currently out reality TV show, The Circle.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum. Do you want to start with Shrill?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Where were you with it? Because I know you really liked season 1.
I really liked season 2 also. I especially liked the evolution of some characters, very specifically Annie's boss, Gabe. And also Annie and her relationship with Fran and Ryan. All of that stuff I really enjoyed. I think that was all the stuff that I liked the best. And then I think the funniest parts still to me were all of the parts like at the office with Amadi specifically. Like after, I mean, we're not, so spoiler alert, I guess, for season 2, because we're just having a chat, but.
I meant establish the show.
Oh, establish the show. Sorry.
I mean, I guess I threw you by having you do it because I usually do it.
You also just were like, where were you with the
with
show?
season 1. Like, what about it? Like, I meant like go broad. Like,
oh, broad. Yeah, I mean,
you really liked it. Why? You know what is it about?
Oh,
what
yeah.
is it?
I mean, it's like really. It felt very like powerful, especially in the moment, because there were a lot of things like it at the time. Like Dietland came out last year too. And it's all like very similar, like feminist stuff.
I think there's a slight
really good.
It's definitely not an elephant in the room, but I can't think of a catchy way to bring this up. But it slightly feels like a next evolution of like a Girls. Like it feels like it's what Girls was trying to do.
Yeah, but Girls was just like too specific and not diverse, and like.
Well, and Girls, I think went off. I watched season 1 and enjoyed it, and I watched the first episode of season 2, and I was like, nope, I will not. And
no thanks.
It was when I've already forgotten all their names. Allison Williams and Andrew Rannells were trying to sleep together.
Marnie and Elijah.
Yeah, and they were doing it to spite her, and I was like, nope, can't handle that. So. This feels like a similar thing to me, a very similar thing, but it feels more thoughtful.
Yeah, it's a lot more thoughtful. I think it benefits from having, oh shoot, what's her name? Lindy West being based on her book and like having her involved.
Did I know that? Maybe.
Yeah, we talked about it in the first episode, I'm pretty sure.
I know her from Dietland, so.
She didn't do Dietland. She was on that one episode of Aisha Tyler's show.
Oh, that apparently resonated with me.
Yeah, no. Dietland was written by a woman named Sarai Walker.
Okay. And I think the other thing is the fact that Aidy Bryant is, at her core, a comedian. I think that works in the show's favor.
Absolutely.
That she's not a dramatist, coming at it.
Yeah.
And so.
But she's good at the more dramatic moments.
Well, I think it has a very, cinema verite, it has a very slice of life where it's there's not necessarily an overall plot. It's sort of a coming of age, but I think it's fair to assume she's in her late 20s, if not.
Yeah, I mean, I just assume she's the same age as Aidy Bryant.
Yeah. The only grand mission statement I think it has is about, I mean, certainly body positivity. That's absolutely a mission, a message of it. But to me, it doesn't come off as preachy.
No, it's not preachy at all. And there are moments in both seasons where I guess season 1 a lot was Annie getting the courage up to actually call herself fat in a way that didn't feel derogatory to herself. And because there were moments in season 2 where she called herself fat and other people were like, what?
It has and I hope I'm saying this right. I hope it's not going to come off wrong, but it doesn't come off like I'm amazing because I'm fat. It's more of I'm amazing and I happen to be fat.
And I'm fat. And I agree with you.
Because I think I'm amazing because I'm fat. I think where that's I understand where that's coming from. I do think that is misguided. And
well, that just it's a very similar thing to the stuff that we talk about all the time where it's should only gay people play gay roles? And it's saying that you're amazing because you're fat then is demeaning women who aren't fat because they can't be amazing unless they're fat. Like, it's a very weird equivalency thing.
And it really does depict kind of her, I don't want to use the word struggles, but like the ins and outs, where it's like there's times where she's totally fine. She's happy and everything. And then there's times where she does feel less than or confused or insecure and stuff. And I think it's that authenticity that I think works the best for the show.
Absolutely.
Where it's like, as much as I love Lizzo and think Lizzo needs to be doing exactly what she's doing, I think that would be disingenuous for Aidy Bryant.
Sure.
If she was, strutting around like constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, she gets some pep in her stuff occasionally, and just out of the gate, I gotta say how hot she looked in the bra with the heart nipples.
Oh my God. Yeah. First of all, that was a hilarious Christmas present from Fran, apparently. But also, yes, it was amazing. She looked so good. And one thing about Aidy Bryant that you can't take away from her is that she has incredible hair.
Because she had the Spice Girl, the Scary Spice knots. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that I actually really appreciate the show, more so than the body stuff, is that I guess the other conflict about the show is choosing between what you have and what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's interesting because it's difficult, because there's a handful of times that I think Annie comes off as unlikable,
Yeah.
So I felt more so in season 1, in a way that kind of strained the show for me. I think in season 2, they kind of, I mean, the only course corrected is the word that comes to mind, but.
Well, it was like season 1 was all about her sort of realizing that she had to change herself in order to change her life.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that sense, there were some growing pains in season 1 where like she and Fran had that confrontation where she was like, you're not being a good person, you're not being a good friend right now.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I'm just trying to make my life the way that it should be and whatever. And so I feel like even though season 2 picked up right after season 1 ended, I think it was they were like focusing on that kind of evolution where like she's past the point where the growing pains are happening and she's like settled into this new thing now.
The first 5 minutes of episode 1 of season 2 is probably 5 of the funniest minutes I've seen on TV in a year. You're like, it was one after the other in a way that like I did not know that we were going to pick up quite literally where we left off.
Yeah, exactly.
And there was just something about like, by the time Ryan pulled out the gun, I was like, hold on, I had to pause and collect myself because I was like, this has gone so insane. And it's the moments like that where it's like, I understand what she's doing with the show and I understand the more dramatic elements of it. And I do think they are successful, but I do think the show is at its best when it's being funny.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a half-hour comedy, of course.
Yeah. And so I would probably like just a few, like maybe 20% more like funny stuff from it. It's got the market cornered on weird.
Yeah.
This season
true.
especially was weirder than season 1.
Yeah,
like the people.
It takes place in Portland.
Okay, yeah.
So that's definitely part of it. Portland, Oregon. That's a weird place.
I remember Ruthie being weird in season 1, but she was dialed up to 11 this season.
She really was. She was really dialed up to 11, and then multiple times in this season, she was like, basically like almost challenging people to bully her because she's trans. And I was like, is she?
It happened twice before I had that as well. Because I thought she was just being irreverent. And then I was like, oh man, is she? I guess, especially by the end, because it was like, and I'm not complaining, but it got weird. What was the scene with her and Amadi?
I have no idea.
Does she like him?
I don't know. Again, yeah, very weird. Like the stuff with Ruthie where I sort of am like, am I supposed to be understanding this? It was like, it almost was like they filmed more stuff with Amadi and then cut it and then kept the weirdest parts of it. Cause like felt like no buildup to that at all.
It did feel, and again, this sounds like a complaint. It's not necessarily one, but it did feel condensed in a way that like, and that's what prompted me to say cinema verite is like, because it was just sort of like presented without context. A lot of the episodes and scenes, it was like, now watch this journey. It's like,
Yeah.
Especially Amadi, and also, for instance, like Beck Bennett. In that second episode, I was like, oh, we're still dealing with him. And I was like, they're for sure going to establish him as like a weird love interest. And they didn't. And
no,
I'm fine with that.
Well, yeah, I'm super fine with it. I think I could do without that kind of storyline. But
it was hysterical, though, when she showed up at his work and his reaction.
He just screamed, like shrieked at her.
He shrieked,
it was hysterical.
and her confidence in that whole thing. And especially because I knew I could feel it happening before. But when he tried to hug her, and she was like, no, don't hug me, you psycho. and I just loved the notion that she actually had all of the power. It was, and her confidence within that scenario was, I loved it. That I thought was so great. But yeah, I liked it. I liked the Ruthie stuff, but I'm like, we need a season 3 and we need to keep going.
Yeah, because it's like, I also don't think I ever knew that she was living with Gabe and his husband.
No, that was new.
That was new? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then she just like had a weird wall of gas masks.
That checked for me.
Well, sure, it checked, but it just was like it was like weird stuff on top of weird stuff on top of weird stuff that was all compounding until I was like, Ruthie was such a quantifiable like thing in season 1, and it just was like she was an unequal fraction in this one, and I was like, I don't know what to do with you.
But she was like, in that last episode, after they have the like discussion about the harassment, the like, not harassment, but like inappropriate sex stuff at work.
Yeah.
And she was like touching Amy's boobs, and she was like, ooh. And he was like, we just had this meeting. And she was like, oh no. That stuff I liked. And also I had forgotten that Amadi's wife was Leslie Grossman.
Did we meet her in season 1?
Yeah, we did.
We did? Okay.
I think so. I remember when I saw her, I was like, yep. But it felt like a weird deployment of her. And apparently she doesn't like him.
Yeah, it was, again, all very weird.
But you touched on Gabe. Go ahead.
Sorry, there was so much stuff that I did like about this season, and it all felt like a natural progression of what happened in season 1. But then there was stuff like that where I was like, what's with Leslie Grossman? What's with Ruthie? Like, there was just like very weird runners as well that didn't feel like they fit as much. But we can move on to Gabe.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you were touching on him earlier. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I did. So you enjoyed the character development that they were doing with him?
I did, because he felt still like himself, but when he was down the K-hole and Annie was like super, super drunk at the roller skating birthday party, I liked that scene. And then I liked that he kept up his end of the bargain and was like actually mentoring her. It just felt it didn't feel wrong, but it felt very interesting because they had like a mutual respect all of a sudden.
Yeah, and the stuff with Sheila was really interesting in a Devil Wears Prada kind of way, where I don't know what I would do. You know, I've only ever once been put in a position like that, and I just said the truth. You know what I mean? I was like, I can't. I was asked by someone, you know, like about a friend that way, and I was like, I think you should trust your instincts. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I don't think Annie should use that as an opportunity to climb over his body, you know what I mean? But it's like,
of course not. And like,
it'll obviously be perceived that way.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no reality in which Annie is like ready to be editor of a publication. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like but I do think it is a sensitive thing to be able to, if she's trying to write for other publications under the big umbrella, that could even be seen as like a betrayal by Gabe. So it is a very touchy subject, but it does feel like Sheila wants Gabe like out in a way that doesn't feel 100% right. So I don't know. It's interesting.
And I mean, considering how powerful Gabe was in the first season, he ended in a very borderline pathetic place here. I can't imagine.
I mean, Sheila was right. He's just like a narcissist. He's kind of just a sad little man who is
very
king
fickle,
of his. Yeah, but he's king of his like tiny little area, but in the grand scheme of things, it means nothing.
He's like a big fish in a small pond, and it's like,
yeah.
I can't imagine this show is expensive. So I've heard buzz about it. So I feel like we would get another season or two from this.
I hope so.
I do too, especially if they see this stuff through. Like, I don't want a season 3 of here's some new, different, weird shit. Like, it's like,
yeah.
I mean, the fact that Fran's
like, follow
brother
through on Ruthie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Follow through on that.
The fact that Fran's brother was in this season gives me faith that they will moving forward. Because I know that that's one of your favorite tropes of all time.
Boy, howdy. They literally did the thing that I love the most in like teen shows and like fan fiction where they were like, you know, Fran like fell asleep like starfished on the bed that she was supposed to share with Annie. And so what's the brother's name?
I can't remember.
Well, the brother was like, the three of them were meant to be sharing a room. And he was like, well, I'll just sleep on the couch or I'll get a cot or whatever. And she was like, Annie literally was like, no, don't worry. We're both adults. We can share the bed. And I was like, you bitch. And it just, especially because they both definitely still have feelings for each other after they slept together last season. I loved it. I thought it was very
But she was good. She was responsible. I mean, because she turned away from him.
She did. I know. I know. But I think that's not to say she might not go back to him later.
Oh, sure. Well, absolutely. Because I was going to talk about her parents, but I was like, that brings us to Ryan.
Yeah.
I like Ryan's very Andy Dwyer, and which makes me...
I think Andy Dwyer has a sweeter nature than Ryan.
Well, by like season 3, sure. You think even immediately? Okay.
I think immediately. Maybe it's just that Chris Pratt is like inherently more appealing to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not in real life anymore, but
historically has been.
I don't know. Yeah, historically he has been. I don't know. There is something more of an edge to Ryan that doesn't lend itself to me feeling a ton of sympathy for him.
Well, they fundamentally don't work because in order for their relationship to work, she has to immerse herself in his reality. He can't bring himself up to hers is the problem.
Well, then that's the thing is like, I think he is capable of it, but he just doesn't give a shit. So he won't.
I mean, I don't know that he has the ability to, like...
I mean, maybe.
So it's like they work if that's what she wants from her life. If she wants, you know, the husband and the baby, then fine. But it's like he doesn't have the ability. And it's not even about prioritizing her, but it's like in that situation, she's the one with the job. She's the one with the future. She's the one with prospects. So it's like he needs to be able to go along on her ride. And it's like,
he's absolutely not on her level. And like making her leave a networking work party in order to go eat burgers somewhere is not acceptable.
And I understand the burger thing was important to him, but they're not on the same level. You can eat burgers later. You can't network later.
Yeah, exactly.
I really appreciated the way that she, I mean, it's to be expected, but the way that she was like, I'm prioritizing you because I think that you're all that I can get.
Yeah.
And it resonated with me. I've said similar things about, you know, myself, where I was like, I had like a romance in college and it didn't go well. And I apparently sealed that part of myself off completely. Right. And you were like, maybe don't do that. And
yeah, don't. I mean,
so watching this, I was kind of like, okay.
Well, yeah, that's really true. And she even says it at the end or towards the end where she's like, I'm tired of just accepting that you're the best that I can do because I'm scared to be rejected, which is like a tough thing to say, but it's also so true. And also someone like Annie, I mean, even if I'm trying to think of how to say this in like a non-offensive way, like her being fat is like not the worst thing about her, you know? She has like legitimate flaws that have nothing to do with her appearance.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, okay. She has legitimate flaws that have nothing to do with her appearance, and it would just, I think it's the type of thing where it's not that she needs to go out and be like rejected more in order to like understand, but like it couldn't hurt her to understand that like that cute boy at the networking party, I think he liked her.
I don't remember him.
The one that like brought her up to Sheila.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was like, I think that could be like a thing. And,
Well, and also,
that's the type of thing where she needs to realize that like she can get a different kind of man than Ryan.
There are plenty of fish in the sea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, and people have a tendency to be like, I caught one, this is my only shot. And it's like, no, you have to keep throwing, it out there. And
it's like, that's not the fish you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Because, and I hate this because, and I mean, I myself do it, but it's easy to preach to other people than to actually change yourself. But it's not about becoming a certain thing. It's about being the best version of you can possibly be. So it's like, because a lot of people tend to be like, I'm not hot like X, Y, or Z, therefore I don't have options. And it's like,
or like, I don't have worth as a person.
Or I need to somehow become X, Y, and Z. I was like, no. Yeah. Become the best version of you. Like someone somewhere will fall for it. Believe me.
Yeah, totally. There's literally someone for everyone.
And in many cases, several people for everyone. So
for sure.
You wanted to talk. Well, we need to talk about her parents. And also, just as a funny aside, I blew through the season and I was like, man, that was over quickly. And I was like halfway into the last episode and I was like, I don't understand what's going on. Why is Ryan at their work thing? And I realized that I skipped an episode. And the episode I skipped was the women's conference.
No, did you go back and watch it?
I went back and watched it.
Okay.
So we can talk about that first, but it was white feminism.
It was like white inclusive or like exclusive feminism.
The ride.
Boy, howdy. I like had all kinds of things I wanted to say, and they've like obviously all escaped my brain at this moment. But first of all, Vanessa Bayer was like the head of it, which was perfect.
Well, did you notice the episode was directed by Natasha Lyonne?
Natasha Lyonne, okay. I did, because as soon as it was over, I was like, man, that was like an exceptionally good episode. And I was like, it really had a lot to say, and the credits were going, and I was like, oh, they got Natasha Lyonne to direct it. I was like, that was very smart. While I was watching it, I was like, well, this is like a nice thing. And then Annie was late, and I was like, well, that sucks. And she didn't get her interview, but then she met Vanessa Bayer, and she was like trying to ask her questions, and she asked about the low income thing. And the way Vanessa Bayer's face went when she was like, what about women that can't come? It's like so expensive. It's like $300
she was being so nice. You know what I mean? So it's that thing that I always fall for where I'm like, but they're nice. And all my friends are like, they're not. They're pretending.
Yeah, exactly. And then the just like biting way that the Vanessa Bayer's assistant was like
played by Matt Rogers. I love him.
Who is he?
He's a Twitter gay.
Okay.
He's the one who sings the song about wanting to fuck the Grinch. The song that's from the perspective of Martha May Hoover.
Sure.
And it's like a Mariah Carey slow jam. Do you remember I made you guys watch that? I'm gonna see if I can find the audio for that because it is
that was funny.
Perfection.
I'm the only hot who up in Whoville. Man, no, if that wife won't, I will. He's trying to get this mother made Whoville sex is what I do. Cavassier by the K-straight killer. Ice pussy, I'm the Whoville thriller. I heard there's a Grinch. I'ma definitely fuck this Grinch.
But like when Aidy Bryant asks if she can speak to the low-income woman who got the ticket, he was like, oh, she couldn't get off work. And I just was like, oh my God, what the fuck? And then she's like going around finding all of this stuff, and that manic girl who started putting makeup on her legs. And she just was like, your legs are taking the makeup so well, by the way. I couldn't literally
wearing the makeup underneath
pants. And I was like, wow. I mean, I know that all kinds of shit like this exists. There's like those like $90 marble dildos. First of all, marble is a porous stone, and you are not supposed to insert that in your vagina. Just as like a solid FYI around for everybody. You're not supposed to insert porous stone in your vagina.
Tells you.
Yeah, no matter what Gwyneth Paltrow tells you, don't put porous stone in your vagina. So she just was like, I wanted something beautiful for me. And it's just like, good luck with your yeast infection, I guess. I don't know what else to tell you.
Sorry, you like wrecked my brain with that. I did the similar thing when we were talking about Riverdale, where I was like, I got halfway there, but I didn't fully. Yeah.
No, it's bad because it holds on to bacteria and you know, things that are bad for your vagina.
Oh man.
But yeah, all of that stuff. And then even when she was like in the bathroom with those other women who were like, oh no, like we just come so that we can hang out and get away from our husbands and kids. And it's like, that's a glimpse at a whole different kind of feminism, because it's the type of thing that really bums me out about straight people specifically, which is just like the utter contempt that you have for your spouse and children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or the utter contempt that you are expected to portray to the public about your spouse and children. I don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels really weird to me. And so I feel like it was an interesting glimpse for Annie to get now that she's in a relationship, or she was in a relationship. Like, I don't know the instinct behind just like dragging your wife and kids or your husband and kids all the time. But that part really stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm.
That like that was in this as well. It really struck me that they went there with this as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I loved the Waham episode. And then
I forgot that's what it was called, because I was reading it
Waham.
as Wham, but it was Waham.
No, Women Are Having a Moment conference is what it was called. And it was so fucking pink.
Uh-huh.
It's just so like patronizingly pink. I don't know. It was very, and then Vanessa Bayer just calling. First of all, they didn't have a t-shirt big enough for Aidy Bryant. And so it's also, again, with the exclusivity, because it's like just only a certain kind of woman is entitled to this inclusive femininity.
But she was still expected to participate.
Exactly. It's really very exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what those kind of feminist organizations are like. It really hit the nail on the head for me.
Mm-hmm. So that does bring us to her parents. I mostly can't with her parents, although I love that they gave her towards the end that really nice moment with her mom.
Yeah.
The reason why I didn't like her parents in season 1 and the beginning of season 2 is because they really reminded me of a friend of mine's parents who I used to be friends with and am not anymore. And
I was like, is it my parents?
no.
Because Julia Sweeney reminds me of my mom.
Yes.
A shitload.
But then once we got into it more, and she's probably not listening to this, and I don't think she would be offended. She reminded me of another one of my mother's, my friend's mother. Especially when they gave them the nice moment. That was the authentic part, because it's like that is true. That is life, you know? But I just, oh my God, Julia Sweeney, I could not with her through most of.
Well, it's the type of thing where, and she did it in season 1 too, because she was making Annie eat that like bullshit diet food. For me, what's horrible is like the microaggressions about the weight, where she just is like, do we really need dessert? I could need another bite. And it's like, if someone wants dessert, let them get dessert. You know, don't like make them feel bad about wanting dessert.
Or the bread.
Or the bread, exactly. And it just like...
Because I have another friend who is vegan, and they gave her like French fries or something with her food. And she's like, I can't eat these. And she was like insisting on giving them back. And I was like, or you could have given them to me, but you were more preoccupied with making a political statement than you were actually efficiently using. Yeah.
So like, it's that kind of stuff where it just is, she doesn't understand how hurtful that she's being to Annie.
Mm-hmm.
Because in her mind, she's just like, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to like make you better and like whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's like the thing she's not realizing is that Annie isn't sick, nor is she upset about the way she looks or feels.
Mm-hmm.
So she's making her feel bad out of hand, like for no reason, which is like, it happens a lot.
Well, it's also
like it happened a lot.
At best, it's a self-centered thing. It's like you're not capable of considering other people. But I did weirdly like the inclusion of Ron. I thought Ron was funny.
Yeah, that was a weird running bit, but he was fun too.
And I mentioned the moment she had with her mother, where it was like it was established that they did have a relationship and that they had a shared sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like shared sense of humor can go miles.
It can go super miles. I mean, that's why I think that she reminds me of my mom, is because we would kind of get into like knockdown dragouts, like not on a regular basis, but enough that it's like, it's a big part of what I remember about my mom. But we were also super capable of just laughing.
What was the Italian guy's name?
Uccelli.
Okay, right.
I knew you were going to ask me that too. But we were both capable of just really making
that was
the
a
other
character
one
your
laugh.
mother did for the audience.
Yeah, she did. So we talked about it in, I think, our Mother's Day episode last year. But yeah, we were on a bus from DC to New York, and she just kept making me laugh by like pretending to be this Italian man named Puccelli who was trying to feed me pasta. It was really funny.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I agree with you. A shared sense of humor is really important because my mom raised me. She didn't work when I was young, and so I learned my sense of humor a lot from her and her side of the family.
And even just that conversation with like the neighbor lady or the friend where she was like, my virgin son rammed me so hard.
Yeah.
She's talking about with a car, but they just couldn't hold it together. Like,
it was incredible, and it's such a sweet moment where you know that they haven't worked out the issues, but that that they will be able to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
So, yeah, it was nice. It was amusing. It was a pleasant use of an evening because I got through it in one evening. It was 8 episodes this season.
Yeah.
But they're like a tight 24 minutes.
Oh, I do want to talk about Fran's new girlfriend, Emily, because she was really doing it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was into her. So just shout out to Emily.
Did you have anything else?
No, I just think it's a really weird, quirky, funny, cool show, and I think it's what we need more of.
It's the kind of thing that, and I think it was Pop Culture Happy Hour. It was somebody I was listening to, and they were talking about how there's becoming less and less of it because the streaming platforms are all trying to get Game of Thrones. So,
sure. Or Stranger Things.
They're all making like big swings, which are fun, but it's like, we're going to lose these. And I was just about to say, this is the kind of thing that as long as they can continue with the character development, this could go for years. This could be something that I'm like, we're on season 8 of this? How did that happen? You know?
Exactly.
So I'm optimistic. Aidy's still on SNL, although I especially, you to a lesser extent, we're SNL people, and we are coming upon a reaping. I feel we're gonna lose like 3 or 4 people any day.
I think we're gonna lose like 3 or 4 women specifically, which I'm glad that we've got like Heidi and
Chloe's doing really well. Last night was good, and she had like 3 skits last night.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Good. So, because I think we are upon a reckoning with Aidy and Kate and Cecily for sure.
Yeah, and we already lost Vanessa, but
we did already lose Vanessa.
She's gigging, so.
She is.
Okay. So the other thing that we wanted to talk about was I fell into, and I can't remember why. Oh, it was Linda Holmes. She recommended it on the end of an episode of Pop Culture Happy Hour.
We will do almost anything Linda Holmes tells us to do.
She is my true north.
She's so good.
Yeah. It was a reality show on Netflix called The Circle. And her way of pitching it was she was like, I cannot express to you how stupid this show is. She was like, but I watched it all in one sitting. And so I was like, that sounds like fun. And she was like, it's basically like Survivor. It's about social media and everyone's trying to compete to be the most popular person, but they are all isolated and they can only communicate with each other through text, basically. It's called The Circle. It's like a voice activated.
It's just like a social media
network. Thing. And so she was like, so basically it's like Survivor if everybody was just in really swank hotel rooms.
Yeah.
And the catch is, because you don't meet until the end, you can be whoever you want to be. You can say whatever you want. You can portray yourself as any kind of person. You're allowed to show a couple pictures of yourself and stuff. And as such, you were not even remotely interested because...
Well, I am very anti-reality TV. I think pretty much all reality TV is the actual lowest form of entertainment that exists. Like, I think The Bachelor is stupid. I can't with the Kardashians, all that kind of stuff. I think it's just horrible.
You have begrudgingly watched several shows, and it's usually when I make you, and I'm not a reality TV person either, but occasionally when the time is right, I don't mind garbage, like easy to digest.
Yeah, I don't mind garbage. I just feel like I would still much rather watch something scripted, like start watching the new Dynasty on CW instead of any reality show, because basically, I got to the point, like, I used to watch the competition shows like Project Runway and Top Chef and stuff like that. But even those shows, after like 2 seasons, they really started only casting archetypes.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be a real world devotee. Like, I was into the real world. But it's like, I don't like when they just cast archetypes as opposed to like actual real people who might like be able to function with one another.
Well, the issue for me with the real world, this should be a topic on a topic episode because we're going real deep on reality TV. But the issue for me with the real world was it was exciting when I was younger, getting to watch people explore and understand the world. But when you reach a point where you've surpassed those people, it's just frustrating.
Yeah.
It's frustrating being older, watching young people be ignorant. And
yes, because like the Back at New York, I think was actually the last season that I watched all of because I just couldn't handle these people being aggressively racist in New York City. And I was like, what the fuck is happening?
And super defensive, like super butthurt about it, like being
super,
called out.
Like, I there's no way I could be the wrong one. And it's like, well, you fucking are.
So the thing about the circle, because we technically already kind of talked about it in another episode and we cut it and we're reapproaching this conversation. But initially you were like, no way, I won't do it. You're like, that's the one where everybody's catfishing everybody. And I was like, well, no. I was like, the thing about the circle is it ended up being kind of fascinating, to tell you the truth. And by the end, shockingly sweet, which are 2 things that you like.
Yes, no, they are things that I like, and I just was like immediately put off by it in the first place because it was a reality show, and in the second place because then everyone started talking about it, and I was like, I was doing the thing that you do more often than me, where you were like, well, I don't like this because everyone else does, but I do like things that turn out to be sweeter than you think. And when you told me that not everybody was catfishing, I was like, okay.
Because it actually, that's the thing. I've seen it all. Did you watch any more of it, or are you?
I didn't, so I think I'm on episode 4 or 5. Yeah. I can talk enough about
potentially
it.
Light spoilers, but I won't tell you who wins. But
that's fine.
That's what was the most fascinating thing to me about it, was how few people actually were catfishing. And then their experience within it. And a fatal flaw many people made, with the exception of, I want to say, Karen, is when they were catfishing, they kept thinking they had to adapt a personality as well. And I was like, that's not historically what catfishing is. I also find just catfishing fascinating because Nev Schulman just made up that term for that documentary. And now it's like, it's such accepted terminology. Because it's like Roots it was like for shipping fish or something. It's like it's like a certain type of fish they would ship from one place to the next, and they would put catfish in with the fish because the catfish kept them all on their toes. So they didn't like get lethargic and die.
Interesting.
And so that's where the term came from. It actually makes no sense.
Not really.
But historically, with catfish, they're being themselves. They're just using someone else's picture.
I think that's the reason why Karen has been successful thus far as I've seen, because she is a woman and she's being a woman, but all she's done is make herself more conventionally attractive so that people will talk to her, which I understand, but she's also still being her whole personality. The problem with Seaburn is that he's being so fucking extra as a woman, and it is infuriating every single time because it's like, do you know a human woman?
To the mild spoiler part, he goes so far.
Unbelievable. He's so bad at it.
He's so bad at it. He even gets caught in a conversation with the other girls talking about their periods. And he has a meltdown and he starts riffing. And he was like, yeah, mine are the worst. My whole left side hurts. And the girls are like, I've
Go
never.
to a doctor.
Yeah, the girls are like, I've never heard that before. Like, he's so
Jesus
bad.
Christ.
And no one ever, like, maybe 2 people suspect. He goes so far.
Unbelievable.
He does become slightly more likable, though. Like, I'm at the place where, and again, mild spoilers, Karen goes home relatively soon. And
that's too bad.
The consensus is that they all agree she would have done better if she were herself.
Interesting. Okay.
And that's kind of what is so fascinating to me, is not only how few of the people choose to catfish, but the ones that do, how badly it goes for them.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things you do extend a level of trust to people that you talk to on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not as much as you extend to the people that you know in real life, obviously, but I think it's interesting how much of a betrayal it actually is to find out someone on the internet is not who they say they are.
Well, because you're almost reduced to having to communicate through hieroglyphics, sometimes literally, because there are emojis. Mm-hmm. And it was fascinating what this show says to me about language, humanity, and society, because you find them getting to a place where by day 3, they are telling each other that they love each other, and they mean it. And it's like, when you only are able to communicate, you have to be direct and you have to be brief. You really start boiling things down to love and or hate. And it gets even more interesting, believe it or not. Like,
I believe it. I ended up having a great time.
Yeah, you were. The first episode is also the most annoying, because that's when the archetypes, when they are behaving like archetypes.
Well, sure, because it was like the stupid hot girl, the stupid hot blonde girl, and even Joey. I was like not super into Joey in the first episode, because I was like, you're just like a Jersey Shore dude, and I'm like not into it. But then, lo and behold, he is like this like softest cinnamon roll you've ever met.
Heart of
Unbelievable.
And
he is such a charming person, where like physically and at first glance, I think I would not be into him. But if I hung out with him like 5 or 6 times, I think I would fall in love with him.
Just smitten. Just totally smitten. And
even just smitten. Like, I think I would legitimately fall in love with him. Like, I feel like it would be a problem for me.
Well, and it's like, because the show ends up being such an advertisement for being yourself, and for being, because and the major flaw for me is that the people that they bring in, so it's like every episode, and actually it's not every episode, but at the end of every day, someone gets sent home. And so they bring in a new person. And then none of the new people stand a chance, because they're already at a disadvantage, because whether real or not, these people forged a bond on day 1.
Yeah, and so it's like the first new girl that came, what's her name, Miranda. Or something?
She's on a different show. She thinks she's on The Bachelor.
She thinks she's on a dating show, exactly. And I'm just like, she's like, who am I gonna make a love connection with? And I'm like, what did they tell you about what show you're on? She seems so
sweet and so hurt. I'm like, find this girl a therapist and some friends. Like,
I'm telling you, when she broke down to Joey and was like, me and my like siblings were in foster care, I was like, girlfriend.
Up. I was like, oh no. Like, because I was like, did they find you in the woods? Like, where? Yeah. And she's so pretty, and it's like,
she's so pretty and she's so cute, and she seems like a genuinely nice and interesting person that I would hang out with. But at the same time, I was like, this is not the show for you.
And so they bring in another guy. His name is Bill, and he's hot. Like, he's genuinely hot, and he doesn't get along at all, because he's put off by the fact that they are talking about how much they love each other. And as a new eyes, he's like, you don't know each other. This is so fake. Like, what the fuck is happening? And so he kind of goes home immediately.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say, is like, when, because I ended up, it was Miranda, right? The girl that came in first?
Yes.
Okay, Miranda, yeah. I just couldn't remember if that was actually her name. I even said the same thing to you, where I was like, I get what you were talking about, because like, even though we've only watched like 1.5 episodes or whatever, I literally can't get into her.
You're like, I don't care about her.
Because I already care so much about like 3 of the people who are already there. And it was a very weird thing, because I feel like it's almost a social experiment on us in the real world as well. Because I was so, even though it was only like 1 episode or 1.5 episodes, I was already so taken with some of the characters that I was like, who is this new bitch? I have no time for this. I already have the people that I like. So it's a very interesting whole thing.
So it definitely keeps going. It definitely gets better for the most part. You just met fucking Adam/Alex. Like, I can't. I hate him so much.
I can't already, with, because we only were just introduced to him when we quit watching and started watching Sabrina, but I already can't with him because he was wearing fucking overalls as a grown man. He's 32.
It keeps going.
and he's wearing overalls. And then he was like,
he brings out tie-dye.
Oh, God. He just was like, I need to be like a hot guy to get people to talk to me. And I was like, you probably don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, also, I mean, all of the women on the show, with the exception of Karen, are like thin and young and beautiful. And so I don't know what kind of people are alive today, but I am still intimidated by attractive men. So I would be less likely to talk to him.
They get a heavy girl who comes in and she decides to catfish because she wants... This is the kind of thing that I would love to do if I were guaranteed like 5 go-throughs.
Sure.
Because it's more the experience. Like, I don't actually want to catfish somebody, but I do wonder what it would be like to play an entire round of the game as like a conventionally attractive woman, and then play the entire round of the game as a conventionally attractive man.
Yeah,
and
but
then
I think they're going farther than conventionally attractive. They're going for like hot models.
Because that's the thing. The heavy girl that comes in is gorgeous. She has such good style. She has beautiful, like she's actually very pretty. And again, spoilers, she does come clean to a couple people, and they're immediately put off because they're like, you're beautiful. Why would you not just use your own picture?
It just gets into like a kind of sad and gross place where it's like, why don't you think people will talk to you?
Because that's what happens is ultimately the catfish all of them end up feeling bad about themselves because they're A, they're deceiving people, and B, they feel bad about themselves. And it's like, because the show actually confirms my greatest theory of all time, which is that humanity's actually good.
Yeah.
And by the time we get to, because it comes down to a top 5, there are 12 episodes and it comes down to a top 5. And with arguably one exception, I like them all.
Oh, good. Okay.
But it feels inevitable, like when we get down to it. And it feels like by the time there's a winner, it feels like such a foregone conclusion. Like,
okay.
I just actually really did find it fascinating, like as a study in human behavior. And because again, back to the catfish, it's like, with the exception of Seaburn, they all key in real quickly. And I love how sophisticated we are without even realizing it.
That's why I think Karen is, and I'm disappointed that she's going home soon, but that's why I think that she's good at it, because she is a woman and she's a lesbian. So she's already a woman and she's been in relationships with women. So she knows how women act, and she knows presumably how hot women act because she's probably been around a lot of them. So that it all works. But like Seaburn doesn't know how women are. And that's what's so wild to me is like, you can catfish if you want, but like if you're catfishing someone the like polar opposite of yourself, you don't know how to do that.
Okay, I'll just go ahead and tell you, spoilers. The reason Seaburn works, in my opinion, is because Shuby falls for it. And Shuby likes Rebecca. And since everyone likes Shuby, they keep her because they know Shuby likes her.
Oh.
That's how Seaburn makes it so far.
Interesting.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So it's like through the trust of someone who is like pure and innocent and not catfishing.
Because Sammy fights her instincts a couple times. Yeah.
Okay.
But she's doing it out of a loyalty to Shuburn. Or Shubham. Yeah.
Shubham, yeah. Interesting.
It's fascinating.
Okay. That part is fascinating because I just think he's so bad at being a woman, and it's because he has literally no idea.
In this episode the next episode for you, he goes on a date with Adam/Alex, and the two of them think they are nailing it. And it is so stupid. The conversation just goes in circles for like 40 minutes, the flirting that they're doing. And they're both like, man, I'm knocking this out of the park. And they are not. That's the moment when I was like, you have to watch this show.
Well, it was like dying. It was the part with Antonio where he kept on being like, I got this person right where I want them. And I was like, they said something that was like vaguely positive towards you, and you think you did that?
And meanwhile, they're doing it because they know he wants them to. Sammy's like, ugh. And then she's like, sounds great. You know what I mean? Like,
it's so ridiculous. And I think what I was trying to say is I don't think you can convincingly pretend to be something that you're not if you have no even remotely specific knowledge about the inner workings of that group of people.
You gotta be creative. You know what I mean?
You have to be creative, or you have to still be yourself, and then be like just smart enough to know that like your entire left side doesn't hurt when you have your period. Men, please learn about menstruation. It's not scary.
His face when they start talking, he's like, I've made a huge mistake.
If you're gonna be a woman, you have to read like one book. Like did you never read Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret? Like read something.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I really, really loved it. I think it's a huge hit. I hope we get more. I hope they tweak it a little bit, but the idea I came up with was I was like, it would be fascinating to do a round of this show where everybody actually knows each other, but they're all instructed to be catfish, so they don't know they know each other.
Yeah. I
think that might be interesting.
It would be really fun, especially because somebody's going to trip up with like a comment that like only they make or something.
That's probably the downfall, is by like the third day everybody might have it figured out. And the formula does change up, because I told you they bring in one of the new people that they bring in. It's a hot guy. He's awful, but he's like with his mom.
Like she's in the house with him?
Living in the apartment with him. So like half the time it's her talking, and like they make like executive decisions or like together. And so the show is willing to switch things up, which I think is good.
Yeah.
But and then the last thing I do want to say is a big shout out to Michelle Buteau, because she is so funny. She has like a slight commentary track that goes through the entire series where, they'll say something and she'll be like, no, of course not. Why would you lie about that? And it's like, it's really good. It's really very, very good. But yeah.
Well, I have, and me as like a non-reality person, I have been enjoying it quite a lot. So,
do you have any predictions? Do you of who you think will win, or who you think the top 5 are, or anything?
I mean, I can only really go on the people that I like.
I was going to say, yeah, there's like 5 more people that you haven't met.
But I really like Joey and Sammy and Shubham. And I think those 3 are the ones I like the best for now, especially because you already told me Karen's going home soon. And then Seaburn makes it almost all the way.
He makes it far. And then Chris.
Which one's Chris?
The gay one.
Oh, right. Yes. No, I do love him.
Because that was a fucking Seaburn.
That doesn't feel like the correct name for him.
Yeah, fucking Seaburn. Remember when he was like, Chris is cute, and all the girls were like, girl, he's gay.
Extremely gay. I like.
So and Seaburn was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, like as though that were such a. Like as though everybody couldn't peg that immediately. He was like, he may as well have been like, hey, hunties at the beginning. It was like so ridiculous.
But
man. Yeah. Anyhow.
So.
Yeah, so those 4 for sure for me. Those 4 for sure for me. But yeah, I definitely think watch it. It is more entertaining than it seems like it would be.
And more rewarding than it feels like it would be, like as far as garbage TV goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that goes to part of the like social experiment part that's so interesting, because of especially the way it's edited and the fact that they're not playing off other people in person, but I keep going back to Joey because he, to me, is the most unappealing presence, because I really didn't feel good in any capacity about Jersey Shore. But being able to show that he is actually like, and I'm sure that tons of people that are like the Jersey Shore people are actually trash, but in order, like being able to show that he actually is such like a nice, decent, genuine guy is such an interesting part of this social experiment, because I would have never guessed that he would be one of my favorites from the first minute. He seems like
he's physically incapable of lying. You know what I mean?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah,
he's like a dog. Totally he's like a golden retriever. So
yeah. So yeah, I just think the whole thing is like pretty interesting. I am glad that you made me watch it. So
typically I don't make you watch things that you.
No, I know.
Like, so okay. Well, we went plenty long. So
yeah, we did.
All right.
Well, as always, you can follow us on Twitter at So I'm Watching, Instagram at So I'm Watching This Show. We are also on Facebook and Tumblr, So I'm Watching This Show. Everything links out from our website, soimwatching.com. And other than that, you can rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.